Good evening, I'm Camden Cohn, and our sports ticker is brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. Earlier today, ESPN announced a new kickoff time for Nebraska football's 2025 season opener against Cincinnati at Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City. Kickoff is set for 8 p.m. Central and will be televised on ESPN. Additional game times and networks are expected to be announced in the coming weeks. In other news, last night Celtics star Jason Tatum suffered a ruptured right Achilles in the Celtics' loss. His successful surgery today and is expected to make a full recovery. Major news from Major League Baseball today, as Commissioner Rob Manfred removed Pete Rose, Shoeless Joe Jackson, and other deceased MLB players from the permanently ineligible list. Both are now eligible to be elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. And finally, there are 2 more NBA playoff games tonight. They're just underway in Cleveland, where the Cavs host the Pacers. Pacers lead that series 3-1, and at 8:30 tonight, the Thunder hosts the Nuggets. That series is tied at 2. Our sports ticker is brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. Call a timeout if you or someone you know is struggling or in crisis. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is there. Call, text, or chat 988. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Hour 1 of Sports Nightly is up next, right here on the Huskers Radio Network.
Coming to you live from Memorial Stadium, it's Sports Nightly. All the Huskers, all the time. Sports Nightly is presented to you by the NDOT Highway Safety Office, who remind you to buckle up and put the phone down.
The next one. Fastball chops to third. Overbeat grabs it. Steps on the bag for one. The long throw across the diamond. Double play. Inning over. And Nebraska's lead holds at 3-2.
That would be Cale Frost representing the winning run. This ball's turned on into right field. This one's got a shot. Case Sanderson walks it off. Nebraska wins it on a 3-run bomb by Case Sanderson. And the Huskers win the series.
Now Volpe's 3-2. Squire swings and hammers this one. Right field and deep. Brunson going back, and it's off the base of the wall. DiNardo scores. Hannah Camenton scores. Squire trying for third. She slides in there safely. A 2-run triple to right field for Squire, and Nebraska with a 3-1 lead in the bottom of the first.
Now, here are your hosts, Jessica Coody and Nick Hanley, on the Huskers Radio Network.
And hi, everybody. Welcome in. Happy Tuesday to you. Jessica Coody here with Nick Hanley with you for a full 2 hours here tonight. We're going to hear from the head football coach, Matt Rhule, here coming up in just a few minutes. But, Nick, I was trying to think, when was the last time we've been on the air on a Tuesday? It's been like 2 months.
There was probably a time when there was no baseball, no softball, but there was basketball. And that was probably it. Actually, no, I take that back. It was probably the week before Louisiana Lafayette, end of February, probably right around then, before there were midweek baseball games. That would probably be right around the time, I would say. So, yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while. We've normally been you normally are listening to the sounds of Nick and Ben on the air calling Husker baseball, but it's the final season or final regular season series coming up this weekend, and a big one. Huskers seem to have done enough, right, to put themselves in that Big Ten tournament, which was what they'd been fighting for all along. But we will talk about that Purdue matchup and get you set for that series later on. But how about the news coming out with Husker football, Nick, with the season opener against Louisville at Arrowhead Stadium on that Thursday, August 28th? Going to be a primetime game on ESPN, 8 o'clock, but ESPN, that sounded a little different coming out. It's been a minute since we've been on ESPN.
It has, and I want to say the last time I remember Nebraska being on a Thursday night game that had some significance on ESPN was the Thursday night game in Manhattan, Kansas, when Taylor Martinez just ran wild over the Wildcats, pun intended. But that was one of the more memorable ESPN Thursday night games that I can remember. Then, of course, in the Big 8, Big 12 days, they would have a couple of Thursday night games. I think they played this was during 9/11. I think right after they had to postpone the games from that week, and I think they played Rice. I believe that was an ESPN game as well, if I remember correctly. But it was a Thursday night at Memorial Stadium. So. There's something about I get it. Big Fox, they do such a good job with their prime time, especially that Thursday night kickoff like we've seen now with Minnesota when Nebraska played in that game. And there's been some really good Big Ten ones that they've had in previous years that they showcase that. But there is still something about ESPN to be able to play on that one on an ESPN national televised stage, being at Arrowhead Stadium as well. So we already knew it was going to be a big deal. Now you just add a little bit more of the excitement because now you know you have national audience and a lot of more eyeballs than you're probably already going to have.
Yeah, I was going to say just that. I mean, you always embrace and relish the opportunity when you have all eyes on you in a situation like this, whatever network it might be. If it's all eyes on this football game, it's good for the program, good for those recruits tuning in. I mean, it is you always welcome that kind of opportunity to play on prime time with all eyes on your football program.
Yeah, there's no question. And you and I have talked a lot about this over the past few months of different ways to promote the program, different ways to have, going back to talking about the bowl game when Nebraska's in the Pinstripe Bowl. And for certain people, maybe they're not tuned into any of the bowl games that aren't the college football playoff or some of the New Year's Six type bowls. But when you're watching a Saturday, and that was the great thing, is that game was on a Saturday. And so you have this college football feel to a Saturday during the holidays, and it is the weekend, so you do get a lot of more eyeballs on it. And for the 3.5, 4 hours that you have of the pregame, the game itself, and the postgame, you're getting that type of promotional advantage on both of those programs from Boston College to Nebraska. And so this is another opportunity not only for the football team itself and for what they have a chance to hopefully begin to accomplish right out of the gate in that first game, but also you're promoting the brand, and the brand is continuing to gain strength, and this is just another opportunity to strength.
Do you make anything, or I guess I even consider it maybe adding to the layer of being on ESPN when there is no longer a TV deal with ESPN for these Big Ten teams, so they're just not on that network. ESPN is still very much has the contract with the college football playoff, all of that. There were a lot of complaints back during the playoff that they were heavily kind of hyping up the SEC. Do you make anything of maybe an opportunity to come out and potentially make a statement on that network out of the gate so that maybe they're thinking about you along the way? Maybe they'll talk about you a little bit more?
Well, I think from an individual standpoint, there is a case to be made about that, because I wonder if ESPN ABC at times has forgotten how many clicks that they get when Nebraska is on the tube. And that's the thing. Regardless of the titles that Nebraska's had, it's still a strong brand. And when they've had some down years and this recent decade where we've seen Nebraska miss on a bowl opportunity, there has been some drama with that program, and people gravitate when a very well-known blue blood type football program is struggling, and then you start to hear some storylines about why, and is so-and-so on a hot seat or anything like that. People also tune in because there's a little bit of that, I don't want to call it the train wreck factor, but there is a little bit of that drama of, oh, what's going on with this program? I remember growing up watching them winning national championships, and now they can't even get bowl eligible, and I heard so-and-so might be on the hot seat, or these players or this player's disgruntled. So there is a little bit of that drama. But the bottom line is, when you have that strong of a brand, and you're especially starting to be talked about in the way Nebraska wants to be talked about again, where your product on the field is starting to speak for itself, starting to see that team ever so surely get better and better under a new coach, but a new coach who embraces all of that, embraces being able to promote that brand everywhere. And so I think from the ESPN standpoint of this, I think they're going to, when they look at the numbers after that Thursday night, they're going to say, wow, that was a huge, huge night for us from a rating standpoint. And no disrespect to Cincinnati, because I told you who's going to be at that game. As long as he's healthy and doesn't have to undergo any type of issues because of training camp, Travis Kelce will be there because that's his alma mater. And I'm sure Patrick Mahomes is going to be there because that's little Cuzzo is his starting quarterback for Nebraska. You're going to have a little bit of that as well. I think they're going to remind themselves, maybe not necessarily the Big Ten part of it, but man, it's nice to have Nebraska on our airwaves every now and then because we really get a bump when it comes to the ratings.
I just also think too, if you come out and you put out a really good performance and a really good product in week one, then they're going to keep going back to that, right? And what they saw, that initial impression for Nebraska on their very own network.
That's a great point. Yes,
that's
is a
more
great
so
point.
What I was kind of getting at is that then they're going to think about even what the Colorado game did a year ago, because Colorado was an ESPN. They're in the Big 12, which is an ESPN network. I mean, if you kind of come out and make a statement there, then that's going to be something that on College Game Day, which is still what everybody a lot of times tunes into on Saturday mornings, they're going to be talking about what Nebraska did on Thursday night if you come out and make a good performance.
And again, you're absolutely right. And there's another way of promoting the Nebraska football brand. And so you're right. I think that does add a little extra layer of importance of looking the part when you play Cincinnati and being able to look like this product that is continuing to get better and taking that bowl season and coming right out of the gate, basically picking up from where you left off, where it's like, wow, okay, they look even better. Boy, Dylan Raiola looks even better. Those young players look even better. The guys that they replace, they brought in reinforcements with even younger players that look like they can do the job. So absolutely, because you have so little to go off of on those Saturday morning shows. And as much as Fox has tried the morning show in their big noon kickoff, College Game Day is still a big deal. And, of course, this is the Lee Corso, his retirement as well. Pat McAfee has that audience, and they're going to be able to react to a handful of games they saw from Thursday and Friday. And if Nebraska looks good and they played on that network, yeah, you're absolutely right. There's going to be a lot of conversation about them. And I think you're also right where that all of a sudden starts fitting the narrative of what you saw in 4 quarters will carry with you for at least a couple of weeks until you give them reason to say otherwise about you.
402-413-2400 is that number if you want to text in and be a part of the show tonight. We're going to get to our first break here, so we have plenty of time for the head football coach, Matt Rhule, coming up on the other side of this. Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. We're back with the head coach coming up after this.
Your Nebraska Lottery has a monopoly on fun. Actually, it's our new $5 Monopoly 10X scratch ticket, and it's also part of a terrific second chance promotion. Until July 22nd, enter any non-winning $5 Monopoly 10X scratch ticket online for a chance to be one of 10 weekly winners of $1,000 or the grand prize of $10,000. Pass go and enter today. $5 Monopoly 10X top prize odds 1 in 114,000. Monopoly is a trademark of Hasbro. Hasbro is not a sponsor of this promotion.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your crawl space and damaging your home. Musty smells, sagging floors, mold are just a few signs your crawl space is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns. A free home inspection from Groundworks. We put water back in its place. Get your free inspection at groundworks.com. License number C142293.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
On game day, every play counts. Now imagine having the same level of control in your field. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Real-time, play-by-play control means you're always ahead of the game. Score big with simplified irrigation technology from Valley, improving your life both on and off the field. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
In the game of life, we all step up to the plate. Sometimes it feels like we're facing a curveball with no clear path. Call, text, or chat 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Don't wait for the ninth inning. Reach out, speak up, and let's strike out life's challenges together. Because we're more than players, we're a resilient community. Remember, in times of need, call a timeout. Call, text, or chat 988. It's okay to ask for help. We're here for you. Every swing, every slide. Play ball. Presented by Nebraska DHHS.
It's employee pricing with the Ford crew.
Employee pricing for everyone. A great time to buy.
Now everyone pays what we pay.
On Ford trucks.
So you can tow what we tow.
SUVs.
Carpool like we carpool.
And Bronco Sport.
Off-road like we off-road. But what about my parking spot?
It's just employee pricing, not parking.
What a relief. I love that parking spot.
Now get employee pricing available across a full lineup of Ford trucks and SUVs. Employee pricing, you pay what we pay. Only from your local Ford dealer.
Oh, should I make name tags for everyone?
It's employee pricing for everyone. They don't actually work here.
Can I still make them?
Sure.
Available on the purchase or lease of select new 2024 and 2025 Ford and Lincoln vehicles. U.S. residents only. Prior purchases and AXZD plan ineligible. Place a retail order or take delivery from an authorized Ford or Lincoln dealer stock by 7/7/25. Exclusions apply. See a participating dealer for details.
Nebraska soybeans power everyday products, from Goodyear tires and Skechers shoes to soy-based turf and fire suppressants. These innovations replace petroleum and utilize other components of the soybean, leading to more sustainable products worldwide.
I'm Doug Sadoff, a farmer near Trumbull, Nebraska. Thanks to cutting-edge research, soybeans are now in everything from tires to turf. It's amazing to see how these advancements are unlocking new potential for our crops.
Soybeans are a win for every product and everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
The Huskers Radio Network Broadcast Center is sponsored by Akrs, the Midwest premier John Deere dealer, supplying the equipment and service to advance agriculture and much more. Akrs, solutions for every field. Welcome back to Sports Nightly. I'm Jessica Coody, and excited to be joined by the head football coach, Matt Rhule. Coach, thanks for being here with us. I just mentioned Akrs. They were the sponsor of the tractor pull at the Husker games. That was a pretty fun event.
I thought that was one of the most exciting things I saw. You know, we did all that sort of like, hey, let's make sure we come out of this healthy. And all of a sudden I saw those guys pulling those tractors. I was like, man, please stay healthy through this. But there's some strong guys to be able to do that.
Well, how you been? Obviously, at the conclusion of spring football, you can't recruit right now. You've been able to get out and about, and are you having a little fun these days?
Oh yeah. I mean, we still have a bunch of guys, but a bunch of guys are home for finals. So I just saw a bunch of guys down in the weight room. So they're working hard still, finishing up school, and the coaches are on the road. They're grinding it out, and then we'll have official visits starting in June. So that's really my time to get around the families and recruits. But we had the Big Ten meetings this week and see what the lay of the land is in football. But yeah, we're having a ton of fun right now. When we do get out, it's great to be able to get out and show the Husker brand all over the country and make sure people know that we're here and we're not going anywhere.
So you went to the Kentucky Derby, and you also were at NASCAR. We saw some videos of that over the weekend. You said you and Julia are big NASCAR fans. How did that come about?
Yeah, Julie and I first got married. One of the first places we went to was Cullowhee, North Carolina. And so North Carolina is obviously a racing hotbed. So that's what you kind of did on, Sundays after church. You put on NASCAR in the off season and watched it. And then moved up to Temple, and up there they have Dovers there, Poconos there. So we just kind of got into it, and then we moved back to North Carolina and had some racers live around us, and saw a former player of mine who works on one of the pit crews. So yeah, just some great connections. So we went to the race the last 2 years. So we went last year to Kansas, and then this year went down to Kansas and met a bunch of great people. So fun to live in this part of the country where there's so much to do.
What's your favorite sport to watch that's not football?
Oof, such a great question. I love wrestling. So like if I had to choose, I'd go something live, I'd go to wrestling. I love college wrestling. Obviously we do it here at a really high level. I like watching women's volleyball live. If you're talking about pro sports, on TV, I like watching the NBA playoffs. I like watching the NHL playoffs, and I really like Premier League soccer. Like I like waking up and it's a Sunday morning, and they're playing over there. So I'm a fan, pretty much of everything. If there's cricket on or something like that, I might watch that. So.
Well, you went to the WWE too. That was fun to see you with Dylan and Emmett. But on your current roster, who would most likely make the best WWE superstar?
Oof. I think Teddy Prohaska at 6'10" would be really good. But I think Lutovsky's got the look. Uh-huh. He's got the voice, he'd be in character all the time. I think Lutovsky would be really, really strong.
I like it. Well, talking to football now, at the close of spring ball and practices and all of that, what did you learn about your group? What did you like about what you guys accomplished throughout the spring football practices?
I think we're a deep group. We have a lot of guys that are competing for jobs. Not everyone, especially. We were talking about seniors the other day, and there's not a ton of seniors. It's a kind of a, it's kind of a middle. A lot of sophomores, a lot of juniors, some seniors, and so I think we have a lot of talent spread around, and there's going to be a lot of competition through spring. When you have a lot of competition, that also means you have a lot of depth when it's the right type of competition. And so I think we'll have a lot of depth. We'll have a chance to play a lot of guys. So I was pleased with how we came out.
Just the little bit that I got to see, and then obviously the Husker games, seemed like a really competitive group. They're pretty fiery. They like to compete.
Yeah, I think if I told them, hey, line up and we're going to run 5 40-yard dashes for conditioning, they might, kind of shuffle over there. If I said, hey, we're going to see who the fastest guy is, I think they would run for a day. They're just, they love to compete. They love to play. They love to challenge each other. And so it's fun to be around, whether it's even just, at the end of it, you think of what we did at the end with the fastest man competition. There was nothing scientific. That was just like, back in the playground, just relay races almost, and they loved it.
Everybody wanted that title. It was, and even the guys that were not racing wanted to make sure their guys got that title.
Yeah, and I know the Florida guys wanted the Florida guys to win. I know Heinrich wanted to put on for Nebraska. Heinrich, probably pound for pound, he's probably the pound for pound fastest guy. Obviously Jacory won it all, but we have some guys who can really roll. We put GPSs on them, and those guys were all approaching like 23 miles an hour, so they were, they were definitely rolling.
Wow. Well, a lot of the conversation and the topic over the spring, and not just here, but across college football, was that roster limit going down to 105, and I know that's still up in the air for Husker fans listening. And where do you stand on that? And at this point, kind of what's your approach when you don't really know exactly what it's going to look like?
Yeah, what I learned a long time ago is when it comes to like the conferences and scheduling and NCAA, it doesn't really matter. There's no reason to even take a stance because it's going to be decided. It's outside my hands. It's someone else's job. And so I'll just do the best I can to minimize the collateral damage on the guys on our roster. Guys that have been here, that want to be here, I'll do everything I can to keep them here. But even if they grandfather it in, it's not going to be like it's forever. It's still trending down towards 105. So, we'll have to trend to 105 if they do grandfather it in. But I'd certainly like to keep as many of the guys who participated in the spring with us. I'd sure like to keep them out here because they're wonderful young men. They work really hard, and I think they deserve a chance if they went through the mat drills and all the stuff that we do. I feel like they deserve a chance to go out there and represent their team. Since you've been here,
Compared to other places, you have just not seen a lot of guys enter the transfer portal. It seems like it's getting harder and harder for guys they seem to really like it here and just all that's to offer here at Nebraska.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, if someone does leave, it's usually, because the situation isn't right maybe for them specifically, like, hey, I'm not going to play. Or, hey, I've played and now I want to go have a different role somewhere else. Or, there's always something maybe like that, We had a couple guys leave in the winter, they lost their position coach, and they, maybe a little bit nervous about that. I think even Keona talked about just the uncertainty they were nervous about. But for the most part, this is a wonderful place, and so for the most part, guys aren't going to leave except for, hey, coach, I want to get on the field, or I want to do things the right, I want to be able to, change kind of the way I'm being used because I've been 4 years, 5 years, and so I have no problem when a person is just trying to find something that we can't offer. I don't like it when guys leave because, another school bought them away or something like that. So we try to minimize that. And I think for the most part, we've kept them. And I think it is, to your point, it is a great statement about, University of Nebraska, living in Nebraska and Husker Athletics and the football team.
Throughout your time, just when you first started recruiting and now to where you are here, and a lot of people want to make comparisons to where you've been in the past, but how has that evolved and changed for you when you go about targeting the guys that you can bring in here to Nebraska compared to maybe where you've been in the past?
Well, we can certainly recruit a higher caliber player here than we ever could anywhere else, and that's no shade at those places. Those are wonderful places, but we were at a Group of 5 school at Temple, and we had a ton of great players. We were at, a Big 12 school, which is a wonderful conference, but, certainly not, what kind of how college football has changed now, So here we are, we're in the Big 10, we're in the premier conference, and we can recruit, at the level that we want. And so recruiting has changed. There's now a financial component to it. So there's a lot of things that go into, hey, who wants to be where? But we can certainly get, the guys that we need.
Just the summer now and going into the OTAs, what are you looking for out of the guys to get accomplished here when you can get on the field with them a little bit here over this next month?
Yeah, I think when we get out there in June, we're really trying to teach them. Each guy has one or two things that they want to improve upon, so we're trying to work with them in a very deliberate manner. We want to obviously go out there and have fun, have some competition when we're allowed to, but it's also still a strength. It's also still a conditioning time of year as well. So we have to be really smart that we're giving them football in doses. And after 3 or 4 weeks, then we'll turn the team over to the team. And the leadership on this team has to lead the way. They have to decide as a group, like, who do we want to be? How good do we want to be? And then do the things, that are unrequired. Do the extra things. I think that's a step that we have to take. And so I can't be the one doing that. The coaches can't be the ones doing that. It's got to come from the players. So summer to me really determines the type of year that you have.
Have you felt just the more that you've got guys that now have been with you for several seasons, the more that has come into fruition and taken shape maybe a little bit earlier than maybe some teams?
Yeah, I think, what we ask of the guys is really hard. So at first there's a lot of consternation, like, hey, what are we going to do? And then say, am I doing it right? Now we have a bunch of guys that they know what's asked of them, they know what's expected, they know what the standards are. And more importantly, most of these guys have kind of, they've changed the standard. They've set their own standards. And so, it's night and day from where we were, and that's no slight. The guys the first year, I'm so grateful for them. They just went into this not knowing what was coming their way. And now, like I said, these guys all know, they all know what's expected.
When do you know that it's a player-led group?
I think, to your point, when you start seeing them, I always feel like when you start seeing them really start to do things together outside of, when you start feeling that, then hey, you got chemistry. I tell the guys, I've told them the story when I was at Temple. I remember seeing like an Instagram post after a spring practice, like after our 2 years, and it was a bunch of different guys in the team, of different races, different classes, different ages, and they were all out at a block party on a Saturday afternoon, cookout type deal, and they had posted a picture that said La Familia. And I was like, oh, they get it. Like, they get the whole thing now. And then we went off and we were really good. And so I think when these guys decided, hey, we're going to build our own leadership groups, and we're going to, not something that we invented, that they did it, they started telling me about it, and I said, no, you don't tell me about it. You guys do it. I think that's when I was like, hey, we have a chance. Now, the key is, you look at the two teams who played for national championship last year. You look at Notre Dame. And the point I made to our team is, obviously we have Rocco there, on the same day that we beat Colorado, and we were so ecstatic, and the stadium was on fire. Notre Dame was losing that very same day to Northern Illinois. And you go to the end of the year, when we watched Ohio State, they lost to Michigan. Both those teams took really, really devastating losses and used that as the fuel to come together and spur on a title run. And so who will we be this year coming up when we have that moment? Maybe it's a quarter, maybe it's a play, maybe it's something that who knows what it is. But when we have the adversity that most teams have, who will we be then? And that's, to me, that's truly when player-led comes to fruition. So I love where we're at, and there'll be a lot of great tests along the way.
All right, we got to get to a break here on Sports Nightly, but we're going to continue our conversation with Coach Rhule on the other side of this. And hey, Huskers, stop by your local Hy-Vee, where they've lowered prices on thousands of the items you use every day. Hy-Vee dedicated to making your life easier, healthier, and happier.
Your next vehicle is waiting for you at Woodhouse. With over 20 locations and a variety of brands, Woodhouse offers everything from reliable trucks to family-friendly SUVs. Whether you're looking for a Nissan, Mazda, or Infiniti, our team is here to help you find the perfect fit. Enjoy a seamless car buying experience with our expert staff and exceptional service. Visit Woodhouse today, where quality, selection, and customer satisfaction come first. Or get started online at woodhouse.com.
If there's one thing Nebraska's known for, it's our beef. And Nebraska soybeans feed a lot of them, and even more pigs and chickens.
I'm Jason Pinky, a farmer near Craig, Nebraska. Soybeans are vital for feeding our livestock, and they're also a powerhouse protein source for people worldwide. Our world needs protein, and Nebraska soybeans are making a difference.
From tailgate grills to global plates, farmers deliver affordable, nutritious protein to build muscle and energy for everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Your next vehicle is waiting for you at Woodhouse. With over 20 locations and a variety of brands, Woodhouse offers everything from reliable trucks to family-friendly SUVs. Whether you're looking for a Nissan, Mazda, or Infiniti, our team is here to help you find the perfect fit. Enjoy a seamless car buying experience with our expert staff and exceptional service. Visit Woodhouse today, where quality, selection, and customer satisfaction come first. Or get started online at woodhouse.com.
Want to boost Nebraska's economy and help the planet? It's as easy as filling up your tank. Switch to soy-based biodiesel to cut greenhouse gases by up to 74% and support biodiesel growth.
I'm Greg Anderson, a farmer near Newman Grove, Nebraska, and biodiesel has transformed our farm. It cuts emissions, raises the cetane number, and improves fuel lubricity.
So ask for biodiesel where you fill up. It benefits our air, economy, and Nebraska soybean farmers. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
When you're in the stands and have the ability to control your irrigation in the field, it's a game-changing moment. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Experience real-time, play-by-play action and control that keeps you ahead. Score big with irrigation technology from Valley. It's technology that improves your life and lets you be at the game and in the game. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
The game of life, we all step up to the plate. Sometimes it feels like we're facing a curveball with no clear path. Call, text, or chat 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Don't wait for the ninth inning. Reach out, speak up, and let's strike out life's challenges together. Because we're more than players, we're a resilient community. Remember, in times of need, call a timeout. Call, text, or chat 988. It's okay to ask for help. We're here for you. Every swing, every slide. Play ball. Presented by Nebraska DHHS.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your foundation and damaging your home. Cracks in walls and uneven floors are just a few signs your foundation is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns: a free home inspection from Groundworks. We put water back in its place. Get your free inspection at groundworks.com. License number C142293.
What does it mean to be locally owned and operated? For Cenex, it means everything. It means that we know if you take your coffee to go or if you like to stay a while. It means we've helped Little Leagues get jerseys and local festivals get funding. It means we know what our communities need. So you'll always leave Cenex with a full tank, full of snacks, or full of smiles, or all of the above. And that means the world to us. Cenex, powered locally.
You've talked a lot about just with the changing of times and even just going back to the Husker games and just being able to adapt and kind of stay ahead of the curve. What has allowed you, what's gone into that for you to be able to constantly do that and making sure that you are ahead of the curve and where this thing is going?
Yeah, I think it's the fact that I'm really not afraid of if I'm being criticized. I'm really not afraid of if I'm trending on Twitter. You know, I mean, no one wants that, right? But we were one of the first ones, that said, hey, we're not going to do a spring game. I was one of the first ones who said, hey, this is what it costs to go get a quarterback in the portal. Like, controversial statements at the time that have proven to be, routine and true. And so I think the fact that we as a staff will be authentic, we'll say what's true. We're not going to be afraid of, oh, gosh, what will everyone say? I think that allows us to be ahead because a lot of people probably also had that decision, hey, we're not going to play a spring game. But when we said it, took a little heat for it, and, nationally, and then after that, soon thereafter, everyone was doing it. So I just think it's our job to worry about the final result, to worry about the players, to worry about what's best for them, best for Husker football, best for the fans. And, sometimes things might be unpopular, but I hope that we've carried ourselves in a way that people know that we're doing the best thing that we think we can do to help the program move forward.
Absolutely. Well, you also this spring had a lot of new coaches that you were working in, and you seem to really like the way they came together over the spring. But they're all different, right? So how do you go about identifying what's going to be a good fit for you and who's going to work well with your staff and what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, I think each one's a different story. Dana is someone I had a history with, right? And so I knew would be a good fit with me because of the time I spent with him. Especially when I went to the NFL, we spent a lot of time together because he was a head coach at the time at Houston. So that was a great connection. So that one was easy in terms of, hey, I know we'll fit. As we went into the interview process, I think I've learned to take more time and interview more people. Do it a second time. Do it in person. Sometimes you're sitting there thinking about recruiting and, hey, we have to hurry up and get this done and get that done. But making sure we get the hires right, I think, is really important. So, interviewing people on Zoom, following up with other phone calls, questions, talking to references, but then also bringing them in and spending time with them. We were in this building so much during the season. You have to be with people. It's not about liking. It's who's like-minded, who believes in the same things you believe in, who do you want to sit in the foxhole with, and it's really hard when you don't know somebody. So I think spending enough time with people to really trust it, and then just hoping that we have enough discernment to make the right decisions. And I'm fired up about the group that we have. I mean, I think we have a bunch of coaches who blend the two things that I care about: a love of the game and winning, and a love of players. And I don't want to sacrifice players' lives and health and all that to win, and I also don't want to sacrifice winning because we're not doing what it takes. I want to do both, and so I think we have the right guys.
Well, two of your staff that there's no doubt I know you want to be in the foxhole with Kristen Coggin and Corey Campbell. Talking to so many players throughout the spring, they just brought those two up over and over and again, and about how good they feel with their bodies, and it just seems like that duo works so well together with their individual staffs. What is it about those two that they've been able to come together and do such a good job for your guys?
Well, you make a great point that Kristen and Corey are absolute difference makers. I would also want to throw in there, because from the health piece, Mitch Cholowinski, who's our head of our sports science, and then Drew Hamblin, who's head of athletic medicine. Most places, sometimes those guys are siloed, and these guys, they all work together. Dr. Matthiasen, we have Dr. Beacon, we have just amazing people that all come together. But we also have people underneath them. We have elite assistant coaches. We get a lot of people hired away from us because we have such good people, but you walk into the training room, you walk into the weight room, you walk into the training table and you see Sarah and Julian, and we've got elite people. And so those people have all done a great job of hiring their staff, training their staff, and then trusting their staff. And so I think when the players know that they have someone that's a great resource who also cares about them, they're going to utilize it. So especially guys who come from other schools and other great programs, they'll tell you, it's just second to none here.
All right, well, got camps, big session of camps coming up, and including a 7-on-7 camp. Tell us about that, why you wanted to bring that here to Nebraska this year. Yeah, I've never really done a 7-on-7 before, but as we thought about kind of where we are and where we want to be, getting people on campus, getting people to Lincoln, I think is really important. And 7-on-7 has kind of morphed into its own sport. People love it. People all across the country love it, which is great. So, we have a ton of space here to do it. We have a fan base that I think it'll be open to the public. They'll come watch, and there's not many places like that that can do that. As we say, there is no place like Nebraska, and so. Imagine the top 20, 28, 20, 27 kids in the country coming, learning from our staff, building relationships, competing with their friends and teammates against great players across the country. But also imagine them staying here in Lincoln, coming over to the facilities, walking through these buildings, seeing what we have, going out and maybe playing a game in Memorial Stadium, looking up and seeing a crowd there to watch a 7-on-7 camp. They won't find that anywhere else. And so that's how I believe, it's not me, it's we as a city, as a state, as a fan base, as an athletic department. That's how we help bring the swagger that we want, the attention that we want to the brand nationally. So I think it's going to be a pivotal moment for us. So camps still are going to maintain being a big part of what you guys do and how you identify players and bring them in. Yeah, to me, as Bill Gates once said, information is the reduction of uncertainty. And so we want to have a camp to get as much information about the kids that are interested in us. We want to see how big, how fast, how explosive, how coachable, how everything the guys are. We want them to have information about us, like, hey, what's it like to play for, EJ? What's it like to play for Donnie? And have them get coached by us. And not everyone can play for Nebraska, but I want all these other kids to have this amazing experience coming here, whether it's the youth camp, whether it's the high school camps. I want them to come on campus, go in that stadium, have an amazing, amazing time here, so that someday they look back and they're truly our fans because they've had amazing experiences in their formative years. One of the camps I'm really excited about coming back this year is the She's Got Game camp with for girls that want to play football, and it's opened up to high school level as well. Why is that important for this program to provide that kind of opportunity for the young women that want to play football? Well, the NFL recognized not too long ago that, if they want to grow the game, the fastest way to grow the love of the game, the support, the coverage, all that is to expand it and expand it to all the young women out there. And so we obviously have
thousands and thousands and millions or whatever the number is of Husker women that love the team. But now 7-on-7 is becoming a sport, and flag's becoming a sport. It's going to be an Olympic sport. It's going to be a college sport. So I just believe at the University of Nebraska, we are leaders and innovators in the game of football. You walk downtown, you see Huddle, you see Open Doors, and many more. Like, we've been innovators in the spaces around football. And so that's why we had a flag game during the spring game. We want to bring exposure to one of the fastest growing sides of the sport. And again, I love those camps. I love having a chance to work with the young ladies and young women that are going to be our future fans, and hopefully someday play for Husker women's flag.
Absolutely. Well, what's next for you? What does the calendar look like? You stay pretty busy?
Yeah, I've got a bunch of speaking engagements. Kind of go. Not when I say speaking engagements, going across the country. Like, I'm going to go down to Orlando and be with John Gordon, the esteemed author, and he's bringing 150 leaders together, and so I'll speak for just a little bit, but guys like Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell, Dabo Sweeney, just Eddie George, some business leaders, people in training. So I'll have a chance to really dive into some leadership stuff with those guys and some coaching stuff, hopefully. I'll go to Athletes First is having a summit, so I'll go down and talk about the state of the game and be with other leaders and innovators. And so it's really important to me that, A, we're represented at those things, that people see Nebraska, and B, that we're getting information and connections that no one else has. So we'll go to those things, and then we have Big Ten meetings. So look forward to getting out there, being amongst my fellow coaches, and sort of seeing a little bit of what the lay of the land is like. I don't know what's coming in football, but our commissioner, Tony Petitti, does a wonderful job, and so whatever is known, he'll know, and he'll share it with us at the meetings.
How does it feel different this summer where you are now compared to a year ago?
Well, there's a lot more this year. We're moving into this new world. We're starting with, with the house settlement and revenue sharing and roster limits. And so, when you do stuff like that, there's young people's lives that are kind of in the balance. And so you feel a tremendous responsibility. At the same time, there's, you have to make sure you're on top of it on your end because, you can't go over the salary cap. You can't go over these things. So there's maybe a lot more different type of work now than there has been in the past. As we come into official visits, recruiting, it's not just about who's good enough to come help you. It's who's good enough and what's their value. So there's a lot of work that we're doing. Pat Stewart's doing, our personnel staff's doing that is new. So in that end, it's that. But I do think there's an excitement from our guys. I think we learned a lot last year. I think especially that period, losing to Iowa, beating Wisconsin, losing to Iowa, then that, sort of, hey, the portal opened, lost some coaches, lost some players, and then we went to the bowl game. I think at the bowl game, what they all recognized was if we go there with a bunch of people who really want to be there, great things can happen. And we had a great trip. Didn't have to discipline one player the entire week, even anything small, because they were grateful. They were grateful to be there. And I thought that was a turning point for our program and our team. Everyone we brought in, they've been grateful to be a Husker, or they're not here anymore. And I'm just excited about that. Like, when you have a good locker room and you enjoy being around the guys, anything's possible.
It's a fun group. There's no doubt about it. Coach, thank you so much for your time, and I guess we'll look forward to chatting with you soon.
Yep, thank you so much.
Again, Matt Rhule joining us here on Sports Nightly. Appreciate his time. As always, a very busy schedule for the head man, so always enjoy chatting with him. Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics. We're back to wrap up hour number 1 next.
On game day, every play counts. Now imagine having the same level of control in your field. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Real-time, play-by-play control means you're always ahead of the game. Score big with simplified irrigation technology from Valley, improving your life both on and off the field. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
It's employee pricing with the Ford crew.
Employee pricing for everyone. A great time to buy.
Now everyone pays what we pay.
On Ford trucks.
So you can tow what we tow.
SUVs.
Carpool like we carpool.
And Bronco Sport.
Off-road like we off-road. But what about my parking spot?
It's just employee pricing, not parking.
What a relief. I love that parking spot.
Now get employee pricing available across a full lineup of Ford trucks and SUVs. Employee pricing, you pay what we pay. Only from your local Ford dealer.
Oh, should I make name tags for everyone?
It's employee pricing for everyone. They don't actually work here.
Can I still make them?
Sure.
Available on the purchase or lease of select new 2024 and 2025 Ford and Lincoln vehicles. U.S. residents only. Prior purchases and AXZD plan ineligible. Place a retail order or take delivery from an authorized Ford or Lincoln dealer stock by 7/7/25. Exclusions apply. See a participating dealer for details.
Welcome back. Final segment here of hour number 1 of Sports Nightly. I'm Jessica Coody with Nick Hanley. Always appreciate the head coach stopping by the studio. Got a lot out of him there, I guess, or asked him a lot of questions that he was willing to answer there over those couple of segments. Nick had a couple questions on the text line. Did want to get to real quick on our Sports Nightly hotline. Doug in Norfolk wanted me to ask him about his roping and if he would take on John Cook. I asked him about it back before the Husker games, and he said absolutely not. He's not getting involved in that. He's going to allow the players to take that on. And Elijah Judy, really, he took a lot of pride in making sure that he was ready to go in that. And, of course, we've talked so much about Heinrich Harburg talking trash to Coach Cook and then not actually even getting, any of the horns roped. So Coach Cook said he was not going to partake in that. Coach Rhule said he's not going to partake in taking on Coach Cook.
Yeah, and Matt Rhule is a very self-aware man. He knows the challenges that are worth getting into and the ones that are probably best just left to the other guys. And look, you mentioned it too. He's got his own players that are talking way more trash and are trying to challenge Coach Cook way more than Matt Rhule ever would. And the bottom line is John Cook would win, and Matt Rhule knows that. Matt Rhule's he's good at chipping the golf ball. We saw him do that at practice. We saw him do that with Joel Klatt as well. So, I mean, he stays in his lane. He knows what he can and can't do, so that's good.
Absolutely. Well, one of the things I think that you and I both took away was when we were talking about when do you know that it's a player-led team? And it probably happens at different times, but he brought up a couple different examples that he had learned from previous teams. And honestly, it's happened since he got here. I remember that first spring he had said that it's time for them to be a player-led team. And I know a lot of the players have kind of emphasized that throughout the course of these last few weeks about really, hey, this is our time. We've got to really make this team our own. And so this is an important time, and he wants them to take that on. And he didn't want to be the one that's pushing them to do that.
There's a trust that I think comes with that. And I like his example, the picture in the La Familia and how they went about that when he was at Temple and at Baylor. And those are all different challenges and different unique circumstances in their own right, just like Nebraska is on its own as well. But I think when he talked about how he didn't really want to know about how you were, as a team, how they were going to bring each other together and how they were going to become that team, sometimes that can be, in my opinion, misconstrued as a guy that just wants to bury his head in the playbook and in film and just be able to get in the lab, so to speak. The best example I can think of is one of the great football minds that we did have here in Lincoln, but as far as being a college football coach, it was completely different. That was Bill Callahan. No one will ever talk about Bill Callahan and being a guy that was short on football knowledge. The guy knows the game, but it was that entirety of the head coaching job that you needed to have that connection with the players. And I think sometimes you can say, hey, you guys take care of that part. I'm going to do my job and try to help us win. Obviously, Matt Rhule wants to win. He knows that's his job. But what I get from Matt Rhule is I don't want to know about it because I trust you guys to bring this team together to become a player-led team, to do the right things on and off the field. And if you're not, I'm going to hold you accountable for that. So to me, that's a guy who trusts his locker room, but is also going to hold them accountable. So he's very much aware and very much engaged on how it is going to happen and how that locker room is going to be as strong as it possibly can be. Because we've talked about it with basketball and in football. It starts with that culture. And if you have that culture where you are treating them like adults, but they're also responding to continue to gain that trust and to hold that trust very strong, like these players seemingly are, then I think that's when you have a pretty solid culture.
I also thought it was interesting, too. I mean, when he brought up on that point, too, Rocco Spindler, and, you can get guys out of the transfer portal every year that are really talented, that have experience, but then you have the experience of a guy that played in a national championship game and how much different that is in that perspective of I was a part of a team that came together, when we lost a game we were not supposed to lose, and then they used it as a game to fuel it. It just to have that kind of perspective, you can't, you cannot speak more about that and the importance of that. And as much as you target guys that are going to immediately help your football team, there's a whole nother layer to it there with Rocco, and that he was at the pinnacle where every football team wants a chance to get to be at every year. And so that perspective is just really invaluable for this group.
Yeah, and that's a good one to bring up because to me, and Matt Rhule has said this himself in a couple of different occasions, is he hates losing more than he likes winning. And to me, I interpret that as he was talking about Nebraska when they were beating Colorado, and that same weekend you have Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois and using those devastating losses as that wake-up call, but also knowing that that's not something the program accepts, right? And to me, that's where I think this program wants to be, where if you lose, it is an eye-opener. It is like, oh my gosh, that isn't in our DNA. That's not our standard. What the hell just happened? And let's make sure that doesn't happen again, as opposed to, well, we've lost some games in the past, too. We were probably going to lose a game here and there. I'm not saying that's what these guys think, but there's a little bit of that narrative right now. And so I think that was a great example of when you can get to that level and your players at that level, that what just happened is inexcusable, and I'll be damned if that's going to happen again. And I think that's kind of what I took from what Matt Rhule was talking about, very similar to that, where everyone can use that as a learning moment, but also know we're not going to feel that way again.
Hey, how about when I asked about a WWE superstar, he said Henry Lutovsky. Well, he said Teddy Brasco or Henry Lutovsky. I was maybe I can see it a little bit. You know who else I think would maybe you could throw into that conversation? Just from how I've seen him act on the sidelines, and he has the personality for it, and he I think will fill out and be a pretty maybe muscular guy by the time it's all said and done, is Carter Nelson.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Because, and to be in the WWE, you got to be kind of a freakish athlete, right? And I know this team has a lot, but Carter Nelson is a freakish athlete. So that could fit the bill. I want to ask one person, because you've been around him a lot more than I have. What about Vincent Shavers?
Yeah. And, because it's not just, I feel like there's a lot of kind of things that go into it, right? And maybe we should call up Zoe Benning on this to get her perspective on it, because she's the expert. But it's not just like being big. It's not just being muscular. You talk about you have to have the athleticism, but you also have to have a personality and be able to kind of ham up in front of the crowd. So we might have to think about that a little bit more. Yeah. I think they've got a few that you could throw into that conversation.
I'm trying to think if it typically does have to be somebody, I think, in the trenches. That's why the Lutovsky one made sense, but I'm with you that's where you got to have that personality too. And so I would think of certain guys over the last few years that would stand out. I'm just totally blanking on one of their names. I had one just a moment ago when you asked that question. I was going to say, unfortunately, he's no longer with the team. But anywho, yeah, I think there's probably some good candidates. You would know this better, though, kind of seeing them a little bit more on day-to-day.
I'll tell you another one. Luke Lindenmeyer would be a good one, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm just going through the roster really quickly, and so I don't know. I have to keep this conversation going. What do you think on the text line? Hit us up on the text line. All right, that's going to do it for hour number 1. We got more to come. Keep it here on Sports Nightly. Hour number 2 ahead just after this.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your basement and damaging your home. Mold, cracks, and of course visible water are just a few signs your basement is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns. A free home inspection from Groundworks. We put water back in its place. Get your free inspection at groundworks.com. License number C142293.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? you might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
What does it mean to be locally owned and operated? For Cenex, it means everything. It means that we know if you take your coffee to go or if you like to stay a while. It means we've helped Little Leagues get jerseys and local festivals get funding. It means we know what our communities need. So you'll always leave Cenex with a full tank, full of snacks, or full of smiles. Or all of the above. And that means the world to us. Cenex, powered locally.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraska-chiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
Good evening, I'm Camden Cohn, and our sports ticker is brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. Earlier today, ESPN announced a kickoff time for Nebraska football's 2025 season opener against Cincinnati at Arrowhead Stadium. Kickoff is set for 8 Central, will be televised on ESPN. Additional game times and networks are expected to be announced in the coming weeks. In other news, last night's Celtics star Jason Tatum suffered a ruptured right Achilles in the Celtics' loss. He had successful surgery today and is expected to make a full recovery. Major news out of Major League Baseball today is Commissioner Rob Manfred removed Pete Rose, shoeless Joe Jackson, and other deceased MLB players from the permanently ineligible list. Both are now eligible to be elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. And finally, there are 2 more NBA playoff games tonight. Currently, the Cavs lead the Pacers 48-37, about 5 minutes left in the second quarter. Pacers lead that series 3-1, and at 8:30 tonight, the Thunder hosts the Nuggets. That series is tied at 2 apiece. Our sports ticker is brought to you by the Nebraska Department of Health and Human Services. Call a timeout if you or someone you know is struggling or in crisis. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is there. Call, text, or chat 988. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Hour 2 of Sports Nightly is up next, right here on the Huskers Radio Network.
Coming to you live from Memorial Stadium, it's Sports Nightly. All the Huskers, all the time. Sports Nightly is presented to you by the NDOT Highway Safety Office, who remind you to buckle up and put the phone down.
The next one. Fastball chopped to third. Overbeat grabs it. Steps on the bag for one. The long throw across the diamond. Double play. Inning over. And Nebraska's lead holds at 3-2.
That would be Cale Frost representing the winning run. This ball's turned on into right field. This one's got a shot. Case Sanderson walks it off. Nebraska wins it on a 3-run bomb by Case Sanderson. And the Huskers win the series.
Now Volpe's 3-2. Squire swings and hammers this one. Right field and deep. Brunson going back, and it's off the base of the wall. DiNardo scores. Hannah Camenzind scores. Squire trying for third. She slides in there safely. A 2-run triple to right field for Squire, and Nebraska with a 3-1 lead in the bottom of the first.
Now, here are your hosts, Jessica Coody and Nick Hanley, on the Huskers Radio Network.
Welcome back, hour 2 of Sports Nightly. Nick Haley, Jessica Judy here with you. You were just commenting Camden's having a good hair day. You intrigued? You need to know his products that he uses on his hair?
I mean, look what I'm working with here. I needed some extra shine. No, the way the studio light was hitting that part, I want to know if he was using mousse. That looked like a mousse do right there. But you know, when you don't have the hair, you got to vicariously live through you folks with hair. Camden, good job, buddy.
Hey, I said this last night. You were not here, but our interns, David's back. David is also back there tonight. He was here last night taking graduation photos. Camden's about to graduate this weekend. It's going to be an emotional week. We've got all these guys that have been here for 2 years are about to graduate and walk and be, I guess, officially moving into adulthood.
Yeah, they're all grown up. They're going to have their own insurance and stuff, too, all kinds of crazy things. But, yeah, isn't that awesome, though? Especially seeing a lot of both from the I've had a chance to watch and hear Camden either through Sports Nightly or on the baseball broadcast too. And there's a guy he's got some big things in front of him, and I know a lot of the ones coming through that studio that have helped out are going to be set up for success for sure.
Well, we've talked a lot of football. We're going to talk some more football with Sirles coming up here in just a few minutes, but you were not with us last night. I guess you needed a day off or something, like you've been working, doing stuff on the weekends or something. No, just kidding. You had to call baseball all weekend by yourself. But the announcement came out with Husker softball. We knew they were in the postseason, but I like their draw. I think they got a really, really good draw, all things considering where they were maybe projected to go. But I think this is absolutely a regional that they could win.
And what have we talked about with this team for now the past couple of weeks is there's going to be a lot of teams that are going to see Nebraska in their regional that are going to be a little shaky with, and this goes beyond, this is the other thing I want to bring up about not only the regional, but this Nebraska team entering. This goes a little bit, in my opinion, beyond just the Jordy Ball factor. because there's no question she's the catalyst, and she's what makes this team go in the circle, and one of the many contributors in the batter's box for what she's done at the plate has been fantastic. But this is a team effort. There is no question about that. But I think whether we talk about college baseball or college softball, we've seen teams that can ride the shoulders of one of those players into the postseason, but by the time they get there, they're so reliant on that individual that all of a sudden you're wondering, okay, someone else is going to have to step up, because now that competition is ratcheted up so much that you're starting to look at, okay, who else can be a difference maker, because we're going to pitch this person a certain way and we're going to really try to make them a non-factor. Or if you feel like you have a pretty solid scouting report on what you're going to see from her arm in the circle, okay, well, who's going to be able to step up? Who's going to be able to do something that is going to offset, really try to take away one of your best players? And that's the thing I love about this team right now is they're coming at these teams in all different ways. We've talked so much about their offense, and it's not just Jordy Ball. I mean, we've talked about Ava Cusack, who's had such a good year. Olivia DiNardo's had such a good year too. So, and the list goes on the pop in that lineup, but also when you look at teams that are set up for success in regionals, yeah, you got to be able to swing the bat. You got to be able to swing the bat effectively, and at times you got to have to outslug teams. But also with what they're able to do, not only with Jordy in the circle, but defensively behind her too. When there is contact given up, are they making plays? Are they making the fundamental plays around her? And then you start looking at that regional. It's Jessica, you said it as soon as it happened. We were texting about this. It looks very favorable. You know, it's. I don't want to say Nebraska's the favorite to win that regional, but I think that is a very positive draw because of the type of team that you're going up against, or that you at least assume you're going to see at some point with LSU. But the rest of those teams in that regional, I think Nebraska sizes up extremely well with them. And this is the other thing too: is passionate as the LSU fans are about all of their athletics are very similar to Nebraska. You know, there are going to be a lot of Nebraska fans that are going to be traveling. They're going to be traveling to Baton Rouge, and they're going to really support this team as well. So I think this Nebraska team's going to be feeling that as well.
From what I'm told, and again, everyone finds a different notch here in the postseason, and I'm not trying to take anything away from LSU, but looking at their stats and all of that, and then just some conversations I've had with some folks that have seen LSU live, it doesn't seem like, they are going to be as challenging of a pitching matchup as what they just saw with UCLA. And Coach Rhule, when I talked to her the other night, and, even with Abby Squire, even though it was a little bit slower start, if they had a couple innings, they felt like they were starting to get some things going against, figuring some things out against a really good UCLA pitcher. Yeah. And so I think that was a good challenge for them going into it. And it even, despite the loss, they took a lot away from it, got a lot of confidence in it. And then I don't know if they're going to see even as good of pitching this weekend. So I think that's also something that, and again, I'm not trying to take anything away, and everyone can find their best games this time of year, but technically on paper and from what we've seen throughout the season, I don't know if they have if this weekend they will see as tough of a pitcher as they saw last weekend.
And that's absolutely right. This is what the conference, in my opinion, has done for this Nebraska team, is they feel extremely battle-tested. I think we see this a lot throughout, again, the ball bat sports. We're looking at college baseball, similar situation of it's not necessarily who the host seeds are. Usually they are typically going to find themselves in the southeastern part of the country, whether we're talking SEC or even ACC. But if you do get a 2 seed or even a 3 seed that is from one of those types of conferences, those teams are going to be given just as big of a chance as the host school because of the type of schedule they see week in and week out. And to your point, what you see on the mound or what you see in the circle is not going to overwhelm you. There's nothing that LSU is going to be able to throw at Nebraska that all of a sudden is going to be overwhelming to them. Yeah. They're going to say, oh, we haven't seen this. And again, pretty darn good offensive team too. So I just think that, look, 41 wins is impressive. I'm not trying to diminish anything LSU has done. Absolutely not. But can they throw something at Nebraska that is really going to handcuff them? Can they throw something at Nebraska that they haven't seen? Is there anything that they're going to see in the circle or anything that they're going to see in the batter's box that is really going to be so different than what they've seen, especially, like you mentioned, in their most recent game? I get it. They lost that game, but this is where you see, we talked about this in the Big Ten tournament. This is where those types of games were important because you get a chance to sort of size yourself up with the best and the type of teams that you're going to face and have to beat to get to that next phase into a super regional. Well, Nebraska fell short, but like you said, they started feeling like they were getting some confidence. They were putting some pressure on UCLA late in that game. And then you realize, okay, where did you fall short? You get back to the lab. You still got a little bit of time to tighten some things up and to try to be able to learn from those mistakes. So I think they're in a good position. I mean, if you look at where they could have landed, you look at, you and I were talking about what if they would have landed in Oklahoma. That would have been a tough one, okay? Texas A&M, Florida, those would have been really tough ones for them. You're looking at essentially the 10th number one seed or the 10th overall seed, which I think is a good draw for anybody, whether we're talking about any of the teams in this regional. I'm sure there are two other teams that are having the same conversation. They're like, hey, this could have been worse, so let's make the most of this opportunity. I know Nebraska's chomping at the bit to do so.
Yeah, did you see Boston University's reaction when they saw that they were going to be playing in Oklahoma? It was hilarious.
Yeah, I was like, oh. Like, oh, we're supposed to cheer right now, but all right,
like,
that's great.
Oh, no. Hey, okay, we're going to talk more Husker softball tomorrow. Nate Rohr is headed down to Baton Rouge with the team. We're going to dive into the matchup because before they can even play LSU, they've got to beat UConn. So we're going to dive into all of that with him tomorrow and get you set for that regional matchup. But I did want to talk some baseball, too. It sounds like, barring some craziness, that the Huskers have done enough that they're in the Big Ten tournament?
I definitely have to take care of a little business this weekend, but I think you feel good about where they are because there's a lot of teams that are behind them that are going to sort of eliminate each other a little bit too. So Nebraska's in a great position. Look, we talked about how important last weekend was to have a good showing, whatever that looked like. Just good, solid baseball, feeling like if they played good baseball, then they would be able to have a successful weekend. And they dang near almost swept Michigan because that Sunday game was close, and they had some opportunities there late to win that game. It just didn't happen. And that's a good Michigan team. So I think from a confidence standpoint, and then this is the other thing too, Jessica, there's history between Purdue and Nebraska from a couple years back when Purdue did some things.
Rain.
Yeah, decided not to tarp a field. Now, to Will Bolt's credit, he said if they're waiting for a team to tarp a field in a different location where they're not even playing for them to get in the Big Ten tournament, maybe we didn't deserve to be in the Big Ten tournament. So he had the right approach of it, but it still doesn't make it right. And those emotions have come out since those two teams have played. And so there's going to be no lack of motivation. And that's what I liked about Nebraska's schedule here as of late is they've faced very similar teams that are trying to play their way into the Big Ten. So there's that sense of urgency that Nebraska's had to match. And I thought the way they played this last weekend, then going on the road, you get finals behind you. You're just down to the business of baseball this weekend. Nebraska, it means a lot for them to get back to Omaha and to defend that title. And with this pod system, with those 4 3-team pods, this is a situation where if you're playing good baseball, and Will Bolt, and I would agree, feels like they are, that could be really interesting. That whole pod format could be very interesting for teams that are not necessarily the top seeds or seed in the conference tournament, but teams that make it in there are going to have a puncher's chance. So I think Nebraska understands that. And asking all those guys over the past couple of weeks, they feel like they are putting their best foot forward right now at the right time.
Yep, producer Josh and I were talking about that earlier. This format really sets up well and probably better for this Nebraska team, especially too, that you don't have to go through a loser's bracket either. You know, that if you just have certain amount, because if depth is an issue at pitching because of just some of the injuries, I feel like this format's going to bode well a little bit more for this particular Nebraska baseball team.
I would agree. I would absolutely agree. You know how many games it's going to take to win a Big Ten title, and everybody's on the same playing field when it comes to that. If you fall into a loser's bracket, then all of a sudden you have to play every day, and sometimes you're playing at the end of the night, and then one of the earlier games the next day. So this is a lot more of a structured format that you know exactly what you have to do. And so I think this is a situation for Nebraska where it's not going to overly tax you if you all of a sudden say now here's the other thing though. If you lose a game, chances of you making out of the pool are probably not very good, even though you do get that second game. You got to hope that something else happens to the team that beat you. But then you go right into a semifinal, and then you go into a championship game. So you know exactly what's in front of you, and I think it sets it puts, to your point, Jessica, it puts everybody, I think, on the same level playing field when it comes to what they should expect from an arm standpoint, but also just your overall schedule and what it's going to look like, as opposed to, okay, you get dropped into this bracket, now you got to play in the morning, or if you win this game, you go to this bracket and stuff. It's a lot more structured, and I just, again, you got to be feeling like you're playing your best baseball right now. Nebraska does.
And the seeding really doesn't even matter as much either in this.
Not really.
No,
not really.
Say they get a 6 seed or a 10, whatever. It just doesn't seem like it's going to matter as much where they end up after the weekend, I guess. In the past, that absolutely matters.
Sure, and I think there's an argument to be made that if you can work yourself into a high enough seed that you somehow avoid, say, Oregon. And this is no disrespect to Iowa, but Nebraska's seen Iowa, and Nebraska had a chance to win that series. Nebraska, the one team that Nebraska had struggles with is UCLA. Wouldn't love to see UCLA. So if you can put yourself in a position that you're not playing them, they're not in your pool, then that's great. But you know what? The bottom line is if you just win games, that seeding's going to take care of itself. So what if you do get UCLA? So what if you do get Iowa? It's a one game. 9 innings, anything can happen, as opposed to, well, we got to play them in a 3-game series now, too. That's why, again, now the old tournament was that way, too, where you're playing those teams in just one game. But still, this is where it's kind of fun. And then you don't have to worry about playing those teams again that are in your own pool, because hopefully you're eliminating those teams.
So you're looking at one win and they're in, right? I mean, for sure, right?
Yes, I would. Yeah, one and they're good. In fact, I think it makes it really tough for anybody to catch them, to keep them out of it. Yeah. So one, you're solid.
But obviously, too, you want to get some momentum going into the week as well. And it starts on Tuesday, right? Tuesday.
Yes, Tuesday. Yep.
So everything moved up a week. So, and again, that's why this series also has moved up to prepare teams for the Big Ten. So the first game in this 3-game series against Purdue will be on the air on Thursday night as opposed to Friday. So we will talk more about the matchup tomorrow night as well, looking ahead at Purdue and what that looks like for Nebraska baseball. We got to get to a break, though, because on the other side of this, we call him the big dog around here, Nick. I think that was another Greg thing. I don't even know where it started or how, but it stuck. And so Jeremiah Sirles is now known as the big dog. And I got a chance to chat with him, diving into the draft and Husker football. So got a lot of good stuff from him. We're going to hear from him coming up on the other side of this. Keep it here on Sports Nightly. And Woodhouse has been a trusted partner in your everyday since 1975. Shop for your next vehicle with the home team at Woodhouse and the official auto dealer of Nebraska Athletics.
Your Nebraska Lottery has a monopoly on fun. Actually, it's our new $5 Monopoly 10X scratch ticket, and it's also part of a terrific second chance promotion. Until July 22nd, enter any non-winning $5 Monopoly 10X scratch ticket online for a chance to be one of 10 weekly winners of $1,000 or the grand prize of $10,000. Pass go and enter today. $5 Monopoly 10X top prize odds 1 in 114,000. Monopoly is a trademark of Hasbro. Hasbro is not a sponsor of this promotion.
Your next vehicle is waiting for you at Woodhouse. With over 20 locations and a variety of brands, Woodhouse offers everything from reliable trucks to family-friendly SUVs. Whether you're looking for a Nissan, Mazda, or Infiniti, our team is here to help you find the perfect fit. Enjoy a seamless car buying experience with our expert staff and exceptional service. Visit Woodhouse today, where quality, selection, and customer satisfaction come first. Or get started online at woodhouse.com.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Nebraskans are choosing chiropractic for better health. Why chiropractic? Because it's safe, drug-free, and a cost-effective treatment option for back and joint pain. Plus, all generations can benefit from natural chiropractic care. Choose chiropractic first for pain relief or to improve your mobility, athletic performance, or overall wellness. Make chiropractic your first choice for better health and find a chiropractic physician near you at nebraska-chiropractic.org. Get your life back with chiropractic.
For farmers, sustainability is a way of life. 97% of farms are family-owned, and 95% are participating in conservation programs and using sustainable practices.
I'm Ann Meese, a farmer near Elgin, Nebraska. I grew up on this land, and we're dedicated to being good stewards and leaving it better for the next generation.
Since 1980, U.S. soybean farmers have boosted production by 130%, all while lowering emissions and improving land and water use. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
When you're in the stands and have the ability to control your irrigation in the field, it's a game-changing moment. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Experience real-time, play-by-play action and control that keeps you ahead. Score big with irrigation technology from Valley. It's technology that improves your life and lets you be at the game and in the game. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
Your Nebraska Lottery has a monopoly on fun. Actually, it's our new $5 Monopoly 10X scratch ticket, and it's also part of a terrific second chance promotion. Until July 22nd, enter any non-winning $5 Monopoly 10X scratch ticket online for a chance to be one of 10 weekly winners of $1,000 or the grand prize of $10,000. Pass go and enter today. $5 Monopoly 10X top prize odds 1 in 114,000. Monopoly is a trademark of Hasbro. Hasbro is not a sponsor of this promotion.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
In the game of life, we all step up to the plate. Sometimes it feels like we're facing a curveball with no clear path. Call, text, or chat 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Don't wait for the ninth inning. Reach out, speak up, and let's strike out life's challenges together. Because we're more than players, we're a resilient community. Remember, in times of need, call a timeout. Call, text, or chat 988. It's okay to ask for help. We're here for you. Every swing, every slide. Play ball. Presented by Nebraska DHHS.
Welcome back inside our Huskers Radio Network Broadcast Center, which is sponsored by Akrs, the Midwest premier John Deere dealer, supplying the equipment and service to advance agriculture and much more. Akrs, solutions for every field. Welcome back to Sports Nightly. We're going to talk some more Husker football and football in general with the big dog, also known as Jeremiah Sirles, as a part of the Sideline Slice podcast we do throughout the fall and dropped a few episodes throughout the spring and summer. But he's been busy, working with throughout the NFL draft. And so finally got a hold of him. We got a chance to chat. It was another lengthy conversation. So here's a portion of it here tonight and the Sideline Slice with Jeremiah Sirles. Well, I just thought we kind of catch up on everything. And the one thing that has kept you busy is the draft. And we saw that Ty Robinson went to the Philadelphia Eagles. He's going to be matching up against Cam Jurgens in practice. How'd you like that pick and that fit for Ty?
Oh, it's a perfect fit for Ty. You look at what the Eagles want to do, and they're all about just rush 4, and we'll stop the run on the way to the passer. Like that's their philosophy is we're going to go forward and rush the passer, and that's how we're going to stop. And I felt like Ty, when he was at his best and at his most disruptive, they weren't asking him to two-gap and read and kind of read and react. It was more use that athleticism, use that power that you have, shoot those gaps and get up the field, and he's going to fit right into that defensive line. He's going to rotate in with, they've got some Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and all kinds of guys. They lost a guy that went to the Patriots in free agency, so obviously made sense for them to draft Ty. I think it's a great fit for him, and he's going to have an instant impact on that team.
And Thomas Fidone to the Giants, how about that fit?
Yeah, they're a team that's constantly looking for a tight end. They've kind of had a rotating door. They tried a guy they drafted in 4th round a couple years ago. Obviously, they had, who was the guy that was dating the WNBA player? Darren Waller, right? He decided to go out and make a rap career, so he no longer is playing football, right? They needed that tight end that can go and stretch the field for their young quarterback, Jackson Dart, who they drafted in the first. So, he's a guy that didn't have great production in college, but always had the athletic prowess. He had a pretty good Senior Bowl. I'm not surprised he got picked up late. My guess is the bidding war for free agency post-draft got a little crazy. And so the Giants were just like, screw it, we'll just take him and not have to worry about all that and just get him on our team. So always good to hear your name called. Always good to hear some Husker names called there. A couple surprises that we didn't get called. Tommy Hill, Isaiah Nair, a couple guys that I thought were going to get their names called that didn't. But it was a very strange draft, Jessica. Very, very strange.
I do want to go back to the Eagles real quick and just – there's now multiple Huskers up there. Does it get to a point where some teams, hey, I know that these guys are going to fit what we do, and maybe you lean towards some programs over others when it gets to that point?
Yes and no. I mean, I think the joke in Philly is they're all Georgia players, which they all are, right? But for the most part, it is very much an individual thing. You want to get to a part as a program where you are viewed like that in the NFL. Right, where a team's going to look and go, okay, this guy comes out of Nebraska. I'll use North Dakota State. I think North Dakota State's a great example for this, right? So North Dakota State, let me pull this up, make sure I'm getting this right. Right, so North Dakota State, since 2020, right, in 2021, Dylan Radins was an offensive lineman drafted in the second, started for Tennessee. 2022, Cordell Volson, fourth-round pick, started. 2023, Coody Mock, he was a starter. Right, Jalen Sundell, he played in the NFL. Now Gray Zabel goes 18th overall. There's a pedigree from North State that offensive linemen are ready to play when they get into the NFL. And so much about what that looks like on the back end is what have you produced in the NFL recently, right? Is it year after year that your guys are coming in and they're contributing and they're ready to go from a physical standpoint, from an X's and O's standpoint, from a professional standpoint? Can they handle themselves like young men? That can bode a lot of wells. And I think that's where Nebraska's trying to get to is we're going to have super talented players here, and they're going to be acting and providing like pros when they get to the next level. If you can get to that kind of respect from the NFL looking at you as a university, that's when you'll start finding yourself in the conversations with the Bamas and the Georgias. And we got a ways to go for that. But Rhule, coming from the NFL, he understands that. And so I really do think he's going to put a focus on that too.
I know Ty has not gone through a practice or a season yet, but he had talked about to me at Pro Day how much that what he has gone through with this staff with Coach Rhule has prepared him. Like he felt really, really prepared for everything that he experienced throughout the process.
Yeah, and that's fantastic because I can tell you from working with a lot of kids from a lot of different universities across the country, that's not always the case. Right, that is not always the case. They're not prepared for what an NFL system is or how an NFL weight room run or how a culture of an NFL team is. And not to the fault of anyone because the college is so different from the NFL. But if you can help a guy groom him as a college player so that when he assimilates into the NFL, it's already drinking from a fire hose and it's already insane more talent and big money and people around and pressure and all this stuff that adds onto it. If you can kind of rest back and go, okay, my foundation is I've been prepared like an NFL player, then I can focus less on that and more on the other stuff around me versus if you're trying to figure out how do I be an NFL player? How do I practice properly? How do I eat? How do I do all this stuff properly? And then on top, trying to juggle all that, that's where you see guys not be able to come in and contribute in years 1 and 2. And the NFL, I mean, if you're not contributing by year 2, see ya, we'll find someone else, right? So it's really important that you, as a college and a university now, are preparing these guys, and especially now with money being involved in the college space, you have to teach guys how to use money properly and how not to let money all of a sudden dictate where it goes. Is it up? Is it down? There's so much that goes into preparing guys to be NFL players.
Why was the draft so strange?
Because there was so many kids, right? Because this was the perfect storm year. You had all the COVID babies, as I refer to them, that had all their 6 years. Then you had all your fifth-year players that didn't have a COVID year. Then you had your true seniors and your true juniors. I think the number eventually was like 1,400 kids in this year's draft class. Right? There's only 254 draft slots, right? And there's really only about 12 to 14 free agency slots post-draft on each team. So there's just not enough bodies. There's not enough spot for that many bodies. And so you saw guys that had mid-round grades fall out of the draft completely because there just wasn't enough picks. There just wasn't enough picks at the end there, and there's certain teams that valued certain positions more than others. Offensive line, there was only 33 offensive linemen drafted this year. Usually the number's in like the 50s. Right? There was a record amount of corners that went, right? And having only really a couple quarterbacks go early compared to what you thought there was going to be. It was just a very strange draft all the way around, and I think a lot of it was the NFL trying to figure out how do we evaluate this many kids, who's worthy of a draft pick, who can we get outside. Do we want to wait till next year? Do we think next year's class better at this position than that position? And, it was just a very strange draft to watch how things kind of fell, especially day 3. Day 3 was just chaos.
Was there any of the free agency, undrafted free agents that really maybe stood out to you from the Huskers?
Yeah, I think Bullock's in a great spot in Carolina. No, I think he signed a really good deal. He got some good guaranteed money. His agent did a really nice job on that deal. He's walking into a room that has some guys above him that are similar to his play style, right? Josie Jewell from Iowa, Christian Rosenbroom from South Dakota State, smart, tough guys that are going to go in there. They're hitters, they're runners. I think Bullock's walking into a really good room that he's going to be able to go there and learn and compete. And, he's going to be a special teams guy that's going to have to work his tail off on special teams, but that's not scary for him.
Do you mean Isaac Gifford, by the way?
Is it Gifford that went to Carolina?
Yeah.
One of the white guys. I don't remember. It was Gifford or Bullock, right? But either one of those guys, they're both just complete workhorses. I remember one of them went to Carolina. I couldn't remember which one it was. But both of those rooms are really, really good for him. And I think that the Panthers are actually a team that is on the rise. I think the Panthers are a sneaky playoff team next year, right? So I like the situation that Gifford fell into, excuse me.
And joining his brother, right?
No, Gifford went to the Luke is with the Niners.
Oh.
So okay. Luke Gifford went to the Niners.
It's hard to keep up with all the
It's impossible.
Moving pieces.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard to keep up with. And I had 7 kids of my own in the agency that I had to send off and be free. So I didn't keep up with a ton of the Husker free agent guys. You know, I always, obviously around cut down time, I always try and see, hey, who made practice squad from the Huskers? Who made active roster? Was there a walk-on or, excuse me, an undrafted guy that made the active roster? You know, but this time of year, it's just kind of, let's let everyone simmer and everyone set, and then once training camp starts, we'll see what actually rises and falls.
I honestly, when I asked you that question, I figured you'd say Gifford because, I mean, you had talked about him being probably somebody that could help on special teams. So I figured I was just going to let you keep going with Bullock, but Bullock went to the Tampa Bay. So
got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right. Well, let's talk some Husker spring football as that is wrapped up too, and with the Husker games. And one of the big topics we heard a lot about was just the offensive line and that depth there, and the pieces that came in with Elijah Pritchett and Rocco Spindler, which you are a huge fan of. Seems like it's been a good building process for this O-line, and you've just harped on it for a long time now. It's just a long process, but it seems like they're starting to get to where they want to be with that room.
Yeah, you know, I think they're starting to build depth at the top and depth at the bottom. Right, it's good to have a good core group of developmental guys that you're really excited about for the future, and you really want to have that depth at the top of your two deep, that you don't feel like there's a big drop off from the starters to the backups. And you know, that's been my biggest issues the last couple of years. I feel like if one of our starters got hurt, it was this big drop off to that developmental group that had to come in and play right away. Like, you want to have kind of two tiers in the O-line room. You're too deep and you're developmental, and you don't really want to have to cross that threshold because of injuries. But, you know, that's where we've been the last couple of years. But I felt like they've done a nice job, you know, moving some guys around, getting some guys reps. I'm excited to see when Gunner can get back out there because he had a promising freshman campaign. You know, so there's a lot of good pieces in that room that's just going to have to keep getting better, developing. But, you know, being Rocco in, who was a playoff team last year, knows what it means to win, has that type of mentality, I think he's going to be the true leader in that room.
Hey, Elijah Pritchett, that is a big dude. He's a
large human. Yes, he is a large human.
He makes you look little.
I don't know about that, but he is a large human.
Much more from Sirles in this episode of the Sideline Slice, presented by Valentino's Pizza, the official pizza of the Huskers. I'll be posting that full conversation as soon as this show is complete, so you can listen to that full conversation soon on our podcast platforms and our YouTube channel as well. Again, Valentino's the official pizza of the Huskers. Going to get to a break. Nick Hanley rejoins me on the other side of this. Keep it here on Sports Nightly.
What does it mean to be locally owned and operated? For Cenex, it means everything. It means that we know if you take your coffee to go or if you like to stay a while. It means we've helped Little Leagues get jerseys and local festivals get funding. It means we know what our communities need. So you'll always leave Cenex with a full tank, full of snacks, or full of smiles. Or all of the above. And that means the world to us. Cenex, powered locally.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Noddle Companies proudly supports the Huskers Radio Network. As a full-service leader in commercial real estate, we create thriving communities. Discover what's new in the Builders District in North Downtown, Noddle Hospitality's latest venture in Exarban Village, and the contemporary living of row house townhomes on Leavenworth. We're welcoming world-class concepts from men's fashion and great eats to gorgeous homes and green spaces, all professionally managed by Noddle Services. These are the Noddle Companies, building a better Nebraska. For more information, check us out on Facebook and Instagram.
Dear Truckin' Awesome. Want more horsepower in the stable? The Tundra iForce Max is the most powerful Tundra ever. With its electrifying twin-turbo V6, you got everything you need. Saddle up the Tacoma TRD Pro. Its segment-first performance seats are designed to smooth out the shocks when the ride gets bumpy. The Toyota 4Runner is part mean streak, part wild side, and an all-around icon. Check out that signature power rear window, will ya? Yes, sir, Toyota trucks. Find yours at toyota.com. Toyota, let's go places.
See your Omaha Metro and Lincoln Toyota dealers. Corwin Toyota of Bellevue, Village Point Toyota of Omaha, Baxter Toyota of La Vista, or Baxter Toyota of Lincoln.
Nebraska soybeans power everyday products, from Goodyear tires and Skechers shoes to soy-based turf and fire suppressants. These innovations replace petroleum and utilize other components of the soybean, leading to more sustainable products worldwide.
I'm Doug Sadoff, a farmer near Trumbull, Nebraska. Thanks to cutting-edge research, soybeans are now in everything from tires to turf. It's amazing to see how these advancements are unlocking new potential for our crops.
Soybeans are a win for every product and everyone. Nebraska soybeans, feeding, fueling, and innovating for the future.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect that water is the reason parts of your concrete have gotten so uneven. Walkway tripping hazards, sinking pool deck, cracked driveways are dangerous threats to everyone's safety. But there's one way to learn how your concrete can be lifted. A free home inspection from Groundworks. We put water back in its place. Get your free inspection at groundworks.com. License number C142293.
Your next vehicle is waiting for you at Woodhouse. With over 20 locations and a variety of brands, Woodhouse offers everything from reliable trucks to family-friendly SUVs. Whether you're looking for a Nissan, Mazda, or Infiniti, our team is here to help you find the perfect fit. Enjoy a seamless car buying experience with our expert staff and exceptional service. Visit Woodhouse today, where quality, selection, and customer satisfaction come first. Or get started online at woodhouse.com.
Hey Huskers, stop by your local Hy-Vee where they've lowered prices on thousands of the items you use every day. Hy-Vee dedicated to making your life easier, healthier, and happier. Welcome back to Sports Nightly. Got a couple of segments left here tonight. I think we had some technical difficulties, so we're waiting for Nick to rejoin. But in the meantime, we had another text on the text line asking about the voice of the Huskers and where that process stands. And I feel like we get about a question every day, every other day, asking about that process. It is ongoing. It's a big job, right? And so we want to make sure we're doing our due diligence and taking that process and making sure we get the right guy that's coming in here. But the process is ongoing, and we expect, as Troy has talked about, an announcement coming up here, hopefully pretty soon this summer. Obviously, we will get someone in here this summer so that they can be ready to go for football season. But we will pass along that news as soon as we get it. As soon as we know, we will let our listeners know here on Sports Nightly. And I think Nick's back with us. Nick, you got us?
I got you loud and clear. I had you before, too. I was hearing everything.
there?
So.
You got us?
Do you not have me?
There
Yeah,
we
I got
go.
you.
We got you.
Okay. Yeah, I could hear you before, too. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, our screens are down, too, and so I couldn't even see you when you were here if you were talking. So it's just, hey, we're getting through it. You know?
I had some of the most insightful things, and you guys couldn't hear any of
What?
that. My gosh.
You
Some
were
of my
talking?
best stuff ever. I was talking about amazing things that were happening in the world of sports all around the globe, and you guys did not hear any of it. So that's, well, I'll just have to keep that to myself.
Hey, one of the things, too, that we didn't talk about following, Coach Rhule's interview earlier, which I'm posting that conversation on our podcast platforms if anybody missed it earlier, but just the emphasis of the camps and the 7-on-7, I thought that was pretty fascinating. And even though recruiting is going to continue to maybe change a little bit, that the camps are still going to be a really, really important part of what they do.
Yeah, and he brought up a really good point that I don't think it's discussed enough about the importance of these camps, because we know that recruiting element to them, and I've been asked this a few times of, what makes these summer camps stand out and are so vital to get certain visitors in and be able to see, just the facilities and everything. I think we all know the answer to that. I mean, that is exactly one of the main staples of this Nebraska football program, especially now with that brand new addition on top of the football stadium. It's gorgeous. But I thought what he brought up about seeing and getting a chance to hear some of these position coaches and other coaches, getting a feel for how they actually do coach the game, how they coach the individual, how they coach the certain drills, you get a better feel for them. Because when you're being recruited, and Jessica, I know you were, I was, not at the level at Nebraska, at least for myself, but when you're talking to a college coach or a recruiter, they are putting on that best face. They're putting on that, hey, we really want you here. And I think a lot of them are being honest with you on certain occasions, but you don't get a true sense of what is my day-to-day going to be like with them when I'm in practice, not in games, but I'm in practice and I'm going through different types of developmental training with this person or that person. What's that going to be like? And I think it is interesting to get a feel for what type of position coach, what type of coordinators are going to be around. So I thought that was kind of an interesting answer that I don't think it's a lot of conversation. I think our biggest emphasis is get them to Lincoln so they can see the facilities and they can meet the guys. But I think being able to not only meet the coaches, but also see the coaches in their elements, see the types of mentality that they bring when it comes to preparation and development, I think is also a big key selling point.
So another question came up in the chat. The guys in the chat wanted me to ask Sirles how often in the NFL they go good on good. And I think maybe alluding to how often Ty and Nash will be going against each other up there in Philly. And he said never really in season, but all camp long. So I'm sure we'll see some. The good thing about training camp is videos surface on that. So I'm sure we'll see those guys matching up in Philly.
Yeah, why do you think training camp you see so many guys get into fights and guys get kicked out of practice? Because that's not usually the one going against the four or anything like that. That's usually the alphas, the ones versus ones. And you're right, it usually makes for good viral moments too. So between just the monotony of camp where every day seems like it's the exact same day and you don't feel like you're any closer to getting to a game, to having a little bit of those chesty moments of one-on-ones and good on good usually leads to a lot of those moments. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Another thing you brought up too, just about hey, coming here and seeing these coaches and what they're like to play for them, and just the honesty part of it. I think that was another thing that got brought up during the conversation on the chat, just about the recruiting. And you and I have talked about this over the course of since we've known that the roster was going to have to be downsized, and just how you approach that moving forward. And that honesty part is going to come with on the high school level too. And you're not going to, I don't think anywhere in the country you just offer everybody and anybody anymore, because that you have to keep that in mind and then also the money aspect to it and the revenue share and the paying part of it too, and just factoring that in. I just don't think the offers are going to maybe be as, I guess, an immediate initial. I think it's going to be more of a process for Nebraska to maybe offer kids in the state and even out of state, and just making sure that it's the right fit in terms of the roster and also what you can offer players in the rev share era that we're moving into.
I agree wholeheartedly because it was funny. I was having this conversation with some friends earlier today, and they were talking about a high school kicker that Iowa and I think maybe Kansas State, I know Iowa had, but Kansas State had maybe shown some interest in it as well. And from what they were hearing is Nebraska was a little bit more quiet, at least as of now. And that's immediately the first thing I thought of is you have to be careful when you do offer right now because of there was no holding back on, hey, what's over offer. And that was going on all the time. We remember it wasn't that long ago when Jim Harbaugh was at Michigan that they basically had to withdraw an offer because they were over offering, and another guy that they didn't think was going to commit to him all of a sudden decided to decommit to another place and commit to them, and they had to pull offers, and they had a few that they had, again, you get into that over offering where you're putting them all out there on all these great prospects, and you're hoping you're going to get half of them. And the reality is you're not even going to get half of them. And so now it's not a situation where you can over-offer. But you're right, Jessica. You have to be extremely meticulous in that evaluation process. And that's why I think a lot of those offers that are going to eighth graders and freshmen that we've seen in the past from other college football programs, I think that's a thing of the past as well. Because how in your right mind, if you have roster limitations, can you just go ahead and assess how a 14-year-old or even a 15-year-old is going to project into once you're going through full puberty and your body is changing? What type of an athlete are you really going to be? So I think not only are the frequency of the offers going to go down, but I also think at which age where we've seen, well, this kid looks like he could be a player, we better get on that now. That was a very popular thing, freshmen and sophomores getting offered. Now I think you're waiting until they're juniors and in some cases even seniors because you want to see how these players are getting fully developed both physically and mentally with the game of football.
And I think even if I don't think it's a panic mode, why are we waiting? I mean, it's also about the fit, right? And guys that want to be here, you heard him talking about that at the bowl game about, hey, when guys want to be here, when we come together, look what we can do. And I just think that's also, if it's because you didn't offer early, then okay, you don't really want to be here, and that's okay. We'll find guys that do, and I think that's an important part of it. I mean, is guys that want to come be a part of what's being built here, not hey, are you going to offer me first?
Well, and what's going to be interesting too, Jessica, is how is the recruit themselves going to respond to what I think is going to be this new era of recruiting, where you're not getting as much contact maybe early in the process as you would like, where you're still a little more uncertain. Maybe there's some conversations happening, but maybe the offer hasn't come until mid-junior, late junior season, or even early in your senior year. Are they going to look at that situation and understand it because of those roster limitations, or are some of those recruits going to be put off thinking that they're not prioritized by this program or that program? I think it's going to be really interesting to see how that is, how really the juniors and seniors, but really this next wave of high school football players, how they react to what I think are going to be offers that are much later in the process.
All right, got to work in our final break. We're back to wrap up the show next. Keep it here on Sports Nightly.
In the game of life, we all step up to the plate. Sometimes it feels like we're facing a curveball with no clear path. Call, text, or chat 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and staffed with trained counselors ready to listen and provide support. Don't wait for the ninth inning. Reach out, speak up, and let's strike out life's challenges together. Because we're more than players, we're a resilient community. Remember, in times of need, call a timeout. Call, text, or chat 988. It's okay to ask for help. We're here for you. Every swing, every slide. Play ball. Presented by Nebraska DHHS.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
Your Nebraska Lottery has a monopoly on fun. Actually, it's our new $5 Monopoly 10X scratch ticket, and it's also part of a terrific second chance promotion. Until July 22nd, enter any non-winning $5 Monopoly 10X scratch ticket online for a chance to be one of 10 weekly winners of $1,000 or the grand prize of $10,000. Pass go and enter today. $5 Monopoly 10X top prize odds 1 in 114,000. Monopoly is a trademark of Hasbro. Hasbro is not a sponsor of this promotion.
Your next vehicle is waiting for you at Woodhouse. With over 20 locations and a variety of brands, Woodhouse offers everything from reliable trucks to family-friendly SUVs. Whether you're looking for a Nissan, Mazda, or Infiniti, our team is here to help you find the perfect fit. Enjoy a seamless car buying experience with our expert staff and exceptional service. Visit Woodhouse today, where quality, selection, and customer satisfaction come first. Or get started online at woodhouse.com.
Welcome back inside our Huskers Radio Network Broadcast Center, which is sponsored by Akrs, the Midwest premier John Deere dealer, supplying the equipment and service to advance agriculture and much more. Akrs, solutions for every field. Final segment here on this Tuesday night edition. And Nick, I really need the Thunder to win tonight because Emmett Johnson is wearing me thin, talking all the trash about his Timberwolves winning and the Thunder not winning. I see him because we have to walk by the training table to get to the studio, and it seems like every time I walk by the training table, he's out there just hanging out, and then as soon as he sees me, he starts talking trash. I'm like, I need the Thunder to get it together and win some basketball games here.
Well, and they're at OKC tonight. Are you feeling confident?
I am. That's
are you
it.
okay?
Camden asked me before the show, are they winning? I said, yes, they're going to get a win tonight. But the fact that the Timberwolves have now taken, a 3-1 lead, and it's tied 2-2, that's the problem, is that they're still basically winning because they're winning their series, and we're tied. So
yeah, Minnesota's doing their part. There's no question. So I think you're probably you're probably not going to get at least that in on him. But hey, again, this all started if the two teams were to match up. How much fun that would be. Now, I hope you guys get to a point, because that would mean that your Thunder did advance, that you can get to maybe a friendly little wager then.
Well,
I
told him if it gets to that point, we have to have him on to preview the series so he can give a breakdown on the Timberwolves, and we can maybe talk a little trash on the air. But
I feel like he could do that very well, too.
Oh, well, that's what he wants to do. He wants to get into broadcasting, so that's why we were going to utilize him a little bit more on the spring game, but then the format ended up changing. He helped me out a lot, because there were times that Damon would, run off, whether it was to catch a punt or go to talk to people, and Emmett would step in and chat. But no, he's obviously, I remember on his signing day, he talked about wanting to get into broadcasting. That's his major, and so eventually, I think when football's over, he might look into getting into broadcasting. I think he'd be really, really good at it. But it just goes back to that point we were talking about earlier with Coach Rhule, that competitive part of it. I mean, Emmett Johnson's right there. I can tell you from experience, from him wanting to his NBA team versus my NBA team.
Yep. It's something that you guys have nothing to do with other than just a rooting interest that he is going to try to get the last word in. I did want to say, because I'm not a Celtics fan by any stretch, but I'm also definitely not a New York Knicks fan. It's kind of interesting to see the Knicks in the position that they're in and possibly getting back, and it looks like they're on the cusp of doing so, to get back to a conference finals for the first time in forever. But Jason Tatum, that injury, who doesn't like watching Jason Tatum play? And especially what he was in the midst of before the injury happened, the type of game he was having, that was just a gut punch to see it happen that way. Whether you're a Knicks fan or you're just not a fan of the Celtics, to see a player like that in the type of game he was having to go down like that was tough to see.
All right, how about I just give you 1 minute here to close out the show, your thoughts on the Stanley Cup NHL playoffs, because people know I don't watch that sport, and they talk about it on the chat sometimes. So here you go. Here's your minute to talk about the NHL to close out the show.
Well, okay, I will say this. Now, I don't watch it as much until the Stanley Cup Finals, unless Chicago's involved. But I have been watching a little bit. I'm a big Edmonton guy right now because I love Connor McDavid, and so I'm rolling with Edmonton to win it there. They're up 3-1 on Vegas. Vegas, another great team too. But I'm going to roll with Edmonton to win this because the sport is that much better because of Connor McDavid. So many things have happened this year. The Alex Ovechkin record-breaking moment was amazing on Wayne Gretzky's career goal tally. But this is the new generation, like Connor Bedard with Chicago and Connor McDavid. So seeing those guys in the winner's circle is so much good for the sport. So that'll be my one little 1 minute rant on the NHL, or just my thoughts, is Edmonton needs to win because we need to see Connor McDavid winning the Stanley Cup.
There you go. See, don't say we don't ever talk about hockey on this show. Let Nick talk about it there. We got a full 2 hours coming up tomorrow night here on Sports Nightly as well. I'm scheduled to talk to Rebecca Alec tomorrow, so we'll bring you part of that conversation, and we'll preview matchup for Husker softball going into the regional. Have a great night, Husker Nation. Thanks for listening.
Hit us up on the text line. Text 402-413-2400 with your Husker thoughts.
On game day, every play counts. Now imagine having the same level of control in your field. Valley is where farming meets end zone efficiency. With AgSense remote irrigation technology, farmers become the MVPs of their fields. Real-time, play-by-play control means you're always ahead of the game. Score big with simplified irrigation technology from Valley, improving your life both on and off the field. Find your local Valley dealer at valleyirrigation.com.
What does it mean to be locally owned and operated? For Cenex, it means everything. It means that we know if you take your coffee to go or if you like to stay a while. It means we've helped Little Leagues get jerseys and local festivals get funding. It means we know what our communities need. So you'll always leave Cenex with a full tank, full of snacks, or full of smiles. Or all of the above. And that means the world to us. Cenex, powered locally.
Your Nebraska Lottery has a monopoly on fun. Actually, it's our new $5 Monopoly 10X scratch ticket, and it's also part of a terrific second chance promotion. Until July 22nd, enter any non-winning $5 Monopoly 10X scratch ticket online for a chance to be one of 10 weekly winners of $1,000 or the grand prize of $10,000. Pass go and enter today. $5 Monopoly 10X top prize odds 1 in 114,000. Monopoly is a trademark of Hasbro. Hasbro is not a sponsor of this promotion.
If there's one thing Nebraska's known for, it's our beef. And Nebraska soybeans feed a lot of them, and even more pigs and chickens.
I'm Jason Pinky, a farmer near Craig, Nebraska. Soybeans are vital for feeding our livestock, and they're also a powerhouse protein source for people worldwide. Our world needs protein, and Nebraska soybeans are making a difference.
From tailgate grills to global plates, farmers deliver affordable, nutritious protein